What's up, everybody? This is Post-Production Pie with SLRLounge.com. Welcome to another session of Constructive Critique. This is where we go through your user-submitted photos that are submitted to our forums. And to get there, simply go to SLRLounge.com, click on Forums, which then takes you to this page, and then go to Constructive Critique. All right, so we're going to go through a little bit of critique here. And as always, be sure before submitting constructive critique, be sure to read the sticky on constructive critique rules and also participate in critiquing other people's work as much as you submit for critique. This is a give and receive relationship, guys. It's an emotional bank account that you need to make deposits into as well as withdrawals from. That's from a book I recently read. Well, not recently, it was actually a while ago. Anyway, let's move on, and we're going to start first with this mother-child shot. This is by Leighton. He said he shot this at the market with a 180mm lens f2.8 on a D7000. Does it work? Processed in Lightroom. I would say it definitely does work, Leighton, and here's the reason why. In this kind of shot, we have just enough mystery without having too much mystery. Basically, what I mean by that is we kind of have this baby looking off to the side. We can see the baby's face. We can kind of see part of this expression. We have a good view on the eyes. We see mom kind of doing her thing, like walking or whatever she's doing. I feel like it gives us just enough to be interested in what's going on without basically hiding too much. You know, what I would say is if this baby was looking off to the side more or looking forward more where we couldn't see the baby's face, we couldn't see the eyes, then it'd be hiding too much and we'd basically be wondering what's going on in the shot. As it is, I think it's really cool. It's a nice candid moment. I think the black and white effect that you processed or applied to this works great, and overall it's a really nice shot. So great little candid image there. Let's go on to our next shot, which is Bubbles by 979. Now I saw this shot and I thought it was really cool. I wanted to include it in the critique. I absolutely love this shot. I don't know if this is just raindrops that fell on your car or how it is, but it worked out perfectly, and it's really, really cool and interesting to look at. Now, the only critique I could give you on this is in kind of the crop and in the post-production. Okay, so on the crop, because we have an image that's really more of a symmetrical composition, or I think it should be more of a symmetrical composition, I'd make sure that this BMW, the primary sign, was right smack dab in the middle of the frame. Now you can do this by cropping it, but of course it is better if you can get it done in camera. That way you preserve all of your resolution. So that's number one. I'd put the center right over that BMW sign so it's nice and centered up on the image. Number two is kind of on the processing side. I feel like this car I think is white and it's appearing gray, and that's basically because you haven't bumped the whites high enough where we actually get true whites. And that happens, it's something that can happen for several reasons. You could be producing on a screen that's not calibrated, or maybe your screen's a little bit too bright or a little bit too dark. Either way, if you look at basically like the side of this page, like essentially in this negative space right here, this is white, or this is white right here. And then you compare these two and you can see how far off it actually is from being kind of a white. And I think it'd add a lot more interest and make it pop a lot more just by making sure those whites actually come out white. Basically brightening it up and adding a little bit more contrast and stuff. All right, so that's really it on this, but it's a really cool shot. It's great that you saw this, and I dig it. Let's move off to the next image. Here we have an off-camera flash portrait by Ryan 180 Becker, and let's check this out. This was shot, let's look at how it was shot first. It was shot on a 5D Mark II 50mm 1.8 2.0 or Mark II lens on a 430 EX2. What do we all think? Okay. I think it's a brilliant shot. I love it. And this is what you see in, what's his name? Zach Arias. He did a kind of one light shoot tutorial thing on his DVD or whatever, where he essentially teaches you that just with one single light and using the sun, you can essentially create two light setups. And this is exactly what you have here. That's nothing new, by the way, but he kind of coined the whole term, so give him props for that, and he had probably the best tutorial on it. So right now we see the light coming from the right side from the sun. You can see the shadows being cast across the trees, and we also have this beautiful little hair / rim light across the right side of their heads and on their bodies, which is great. It's brilliant, and you've done a great job in not only balancing the overall exposure itself from your flash that's coming on the left, you've also done a great job of balancing the light temperature of that flash. Because generally in this kind of scene, the flash temperature is going to be a little bit too blue, and you want to bump it to more kind of a warm color by adding, say, a gel or something like that to balance it out with the sun. So you've done a really great job with that. The composition is great. I see this path kind of leads right into the couple in the right third of the frame. Overall, it's a great composition, great shot, and really nice lighting, good post-production. There's nothing I could say wrong with this image, so good job there. There's actually one small, tiny thing. Over here on the very left side, there's a slight color, and the only reason this pops out is because we have a really nice mood tone throughout this entire shot, where we basically have primarily kind of reds, oranges, yellows in this shot, and it creates a really great tone to it. The only thing that stands out is this kind of blue. I don't know if this is a house or what that is, but that is just a little bit distracting, tiny bit. But again, great shot. Otherwise, you could either crop that out in camera or do it in post, or you can just change the color of it. Either way, up to you how you want to deal with it, or whether you want to deal with it at all. All right, let's go on to our next shot. This is Sunlight by Josh. Now, we have a nice little shot here. This was, I don't think we have many camera settings. Actually, we have is D5100, 35mm, 1.4 with off-camera flash. Okay. So I love that you're playing with flash and kind of off-camera settings. Again, you have that same kind of two-light setup just by using the sun as your backlight, using that flash as your main light. And it looks really nice as far as the lighting goes. I think there's a couple things that can be done better. Number one, your front flash looks like it's a little bit harsh right now. So basically we're hitting her a little bit hard. You can pull that down in post actually, because it doesn't look like it's blown out. It just looks like it's a little bit too bright. Number two is kind of her overall pose and what she's doing. With her head tilted back, we cast these shadows, and you basically get a ghost lighting effect because the flash looks like it's placed right about her neck level. You can see that that's the strongest point that's hitting kind of right on her chest, which means that since her face is above the flash and since she's tilting her head back, we're going to get basically these kind of nasty shadows right underneath the light or underneath the eyes, and it creates that what we'd refer to as ghost lighting or campfire lighting kind of look that you really don't want to get on portraits like this. Number two, because it's so far back, the pose is a little bit it's not quite doing it for me, just because we're taking such a wide shot and I can't really see her that well, and so it makes me wonder what she's really doing with her face and where she's looking, because I can't really visualize it. I can't see it. So I'd kind of like it more if she was looking into the lens, or if she was doing something that was a little bit more, I guess, direct and kind of, telling me what she's doing exactly. As it is right now, kind of feels like, hey, I'm laying in this scene just staring off to the side, and I don't really know what that has to do with the overall story or what we're trying to do here. Okay, the other thing on the lighting, and it's great that you're playing with lighting, but one thing I would always say as well is watch your shadows, because we're casting this huge shadow right over here, which is, it's natural to be casting those kind of shadows, but the size and placement of that shadow makes it very distracting because it creates such a large amount of contrast between this brighter area on the left, the city scene behind it, and this dark area right here. All right, so those are kind of the main critiques I'd give you on that. I think you did a good job in using that flash to try and balance out this exposure. Overall, I think the post-production is fine. It looks nice and natural, but those are things I'd kind of correct as far as the actual shot, composition, lighting, and posing is in this image. Good job, though. Let's keep going on to the next shot. So we have Be Like Water by GL Photo. Now this is awesome for several reasons. I think this is himself. This is GL Photo on his, this is a set that he did on a parkour gym. So that's pretty crazy, Grant, that you can do parkour. Now I have two terrible knees from a lifetime, or not a lifetime, but 16 years worth of skiing every single day almost in Utah. So my knees are shot because I had season passes growing up, and I can't imagine what kind of, I've seen parkour and I've seen what you guys do, and it's just absolutely insane. I can't imagine how your joints feel after going and running and jumping off cement and doing all those crazy things. So that's awesome from that standpoint. Now, as far as the shot itself goes, I dig it. I think it's really cool. I think it's a great kind of overall self-portrait. I don't know if it's a self-portrait, but it's a great portrait of you kind of doing this in action. The one thing I think is missing from this shot is a sense of action. One of the cool things of, a lot of sports photographers and action photographers is that they really try and get in on the action. Like, they get close and they try and capture some of that movement so that you really can feel the action that's happening. I think this is a great shot. It's a good exposure. It's a nice composition. Everything about it's great. But I don't necessarily feel that sense of action, because what you're doing is pretty incredible. And I don't get that by looking at it. And I want to kind of have that. So if this shot was, say, taken where you can basically place the camera like right here, shoot through these bars as you're kind of in a crazy pose, I think that'd be ridiculously cool, showing you in action, even slowing down the shutter a little bit so that there's, say, just a tiny bit of movement, especially on your kind of limbs, like the extended limbs as they're out and moving. We can see your face kind of more sharp, but the limbs are kind of moving and in motion. That added a lot of interest to the overall shot. Good job, though, and looks like you're pretty awesome at parkour, and hopefully we'll see some more shots of you doing that soon. All right, let's go on to the next image here. This is Ponte de Lima by Mondrulo. And yes, I did slaughter that, so I'm not from Portugal, all right? I'm from, well, I'm actually from Iran, but I live in the United States, so. All right, so this is for our critique. He woke up at 6 a.m. to get this shot. Let's see here. Forgot his filters at home, took it raw, and there's the larger size there. I actually really dig this shot. I think it works out great. I think this little placement of kind of grass and stuff in the foreground actually adds quite a bit of interest to the shot. And I think it'd work just as well without it too, because we'd have more of the reflection. We kind of see, it works either way. The only kind of critique I have for this shot is the placement of actually your watermark. This is kind of one of my pet peeves, and everybody has, different things, and I leave this fully up to you guys. But here's the thing. When I look at an image like this, it looks really beautiful. I love the color toning. I love everything about it. But this watermark is right in the middle of the image, and it kind of, at first when I saw it, I actually thought this was the sign from the church. And I'm like, oh, is that church called Thomas Martin's? And I realized, oh, this is a watermark. So I would always say with your watermarks, place them in places on the image that they're not going to be super distracting. I mean, chances are most likely people are not going to be stealing your images, okay? If people steal your images, that's because they don't have money to pay you for them anyway. So it's not going to matter, all right? and whatever. If they steal your images, that's fine. Big companies, they're not going to steal your images because they know that you'll sue them and you'll make a lot of money because they actually stole your images. It's not going to happen. It's something that you shouldn't really be worried about, placing these watermarks in kind of these spots right here. Overall, back to the shot itself, I think it's a great shot. I think you did a really nice job. I love the glassy reflection. It's something that you really can only capture and with this mist in the morning. So I know exactly what it took to get up and be out there, at this time in the morning. It was probably very cold, and kudos to you on that. Nice job shooting it raw and also with the processing, because I think the tones look really nice too. All right, let's go on to our next image. This is Bike in Tunnel, and once again, be sure to embed your images into the forum so we don't have to click through to Flickr to actually see it. But here is the image on Flickr, and I actually dig this image. I think there's a lot of points of interest here. The one thing that I would say is that, this biker that's going through the scene, I really couldn't tell it was a biker until you kind of had that in your title. You place that in your title, and so I know that that's a biker, but based on what's going on here, it just looks like this ghosted object, and it almost looks a little bit like a mistake because we have this random kind of light trail from the light on the bike and stuff, and that's not what's really doing it for me in this image. What I like about this image are the lines. I see these great lines coming out, nice kind of contrast and focus on this great graffiti over here on the left, on the right. A lot of interest already in the shot, and I'd say that's really the strong point of this shot is that, is basically the graffiti and kind of the lines in the image, not so much the biker. What also might be cool in this shot is to take a center standpoint with these lines all basically coming directly into the lens, and so we kind of see that really strong vanishing point with all these lines coming, straight down to the horizon. We kind of see this tunnel bending off to the right side. I think that'd look really cool as well. Just an idea for you. But overall, great job on the shot. I really dig the post-production. I think it's produced exactly how it should be, where the colors are really popping. It's extra vivid. I dig it. One thing I would correct is your actual horizon line. I know this shot like this, you technically say that this doesn't have a horizon line, but I always say that you want to look past whatever's in the frame to the imaginary horizon line. Now, based on that, we can see that this shot is actually tilted a little bit to the right, and I'd correct for that. So basically bending it back. The easiest way to tell in a shot like this is look at the actual walls themselves. You can see this slant off to the right on the wall itself. Same thing up here where these lines should actually be straightened. All right, those are the only things I'd kind of correct on that side. Okay, let's go on to our next image. This is Church Tower. Once again, do be sure to embed them. This is by Jorn van der Lee. I kind of said that in a weird way. Jorn van der Lee. Okay. Camera D7000 with the 18-105 VR ISO 160, 5 seconds, 5.6. let's take a look at the shot. Here's the shot itself. I think it's cool. Yeah, I think what he said was basically he was driving by this, he saw the cool light, and I actually really dig it. Now, what I would say for this type of shot is this would be really cool if we had kind of maybe a mixture of lighting, or maybe you went more with the blue side. Because we're dealing with nighttime shots and we're dealing with the moon and moonlight, generally, and if you watch like Hollywood movies, you'll see that typically the effect that's being used for these types of scenes is a blue kind of temperature hue to those scenes, because it adds to the kind of that nighttime cool feeling of those kind of images. Now, if you want to keep the church kind of this yellow tone, then I would say just do dual toning. So basically make the sky kind of more of a blue tone, keep the church itself more of a yellow tone. But I think that blue toning would really add to that nighttime effect and add to the overall mood in the shot. So that's one thing on that side. I think overall the shot is really cool. It has a lot of interest. I like how the church is highlighted, and I dig it. So that's really the main thing I would kind of correct on that side. The 5-second shutter, as you can see, because these clouds are moving so quick, does have that effect of making the clouds streak a little bit. This is kind of up to you whether you like that or not. For me, it works in this image. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I like the way it looks in this image, so that's cool there too. All right, let's go on to our next shot. This is by Sarvath, Iridescent Cloud. This is the first post, and let's take a look. Let's see actually the settings. This was shot on a Nikon D90 with a Sigma 18-50, 2.8 at f4, 1/250 to the second, ISO 200 with an 18mm graduated gray filter. I think you mean a graduated filter. Okay, so it's in Scotland during the sunset, and the weather occurrence is named Iridescent Cloud. Cool. All right, let's take a look at this. I really like the way this looks. I like the way it's processed. I can't tell if this is, it looks almost HDR-ish to me, and it might be a little bit, I think a little bit too HDR-ish for my taste, but I think it looks cool overall. Now, what I would do for this shot is really kind of fix, number one, the horizon line, and decide on what is the most interesting or the most important part of this frame. Because right now I kind of feel like there's two things that you're trying to focus on. One is the sky, one is this nice little roll of grass. And they're kind of, they're kind of fighting in the frame for overall attention. I think it could be the placement, it could be the actual crop itself, but essentially deciding on what is going to be the main focus, composing your frame for that, and then kind of, shooting the shot afterwards. So again, straighten out the horizon line in this shot and then kind of figure out where this object should go. I think if you want to bring attention to this object, it might deserve to kind of go a little bit above the horizon line, basically be a little bit larger in frame. If you want to bring attention more to this overall scene, again, pull back more so that we see kind of like, so all these objects are more this size, maybe get lower to the ground so it's about the grass in the front, and extending in, you can see all these rolls of grass in like the horizon line, and we see this beautiful cloud and kind of setting there. As far as the color toning and everything, again, I think on the post-production side, it might be a little bit too heavy with this HDR effect. I kind of want a little bit more shadow and stuff in the image, but it's totally fine. I dig the overall colors and everything like that, and with the HDR thing, it's really more of a preferential thing. So it doesn't quite fit with what I usually do, but it works for, I know a lot of people out there. It's really one of those polarizing topics. So great job, Sarvath, and hope you all enjoyed this little session of constructive critique. We'll see you all in the next video.